Bible is just about as wrong as it is possible for any document to be.
For fuck's sake!
They want to go ahead and they want to take this idea and talk about that as if it's real, as if that's what's real.
This is insane. Look at this vastness.
Hello, and welcome to the Line Go Show with your host, Sir Strife. And today's topic is evolution. And today we have Aronra, Headless Chicken, Kenbei85, and the Realistic Nihilist. I hope I pronounced that right. Oh, yeah. And also, don't forget to donate to Traumatologic's charity for the mental health of Ireland or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it is, Stripe. Well, it sounds very unofficial when you don't know what charity it is, man.
I don't have it written down in front of me.
Well, that was a bad call on your part.
Okay. So Kenbei, I remember a few days ago you defined what information was, right?
Well, I more or less said it's a difficult concept to define, and one of the reasons for that is information is not a physical substance. It's not a physical reality. So, first of all, also I'd like to mention my name. It's supposed to be pronounced Kenbei. It's a Japanese name. It's a video game reference. No big deal. But at any rate, regarding information, like I said to you before, it's essentially it's not a physical substance, not a physical reality, but it is I guess you would call it an idea or a non-physical reality, which is transmitted using symbols, which are interpreted. And I'm not claiming that that's an official definition by any means, but if you want me to try one off the cuff, that's about what I would say.
Are you an idealist then?
An idealist. Define, because I think that can mean more than one thing. Could you define what you mean by that?
You think that the basic substance of existence is ideas, as opposed to a physical nature?
I wouldn't.
Like idealism as opposed to realism?
Like a Platonic kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of like Platonic realm, like that. Yeah.
I really don't think I would go so far as to say that, because I think that's probably an oversimplification of reality. I think the best thing that if you want to label me, you can feel free to label me as a Christian theist, a dualist, metaphysical substance dualism. If you want to put a word on it, But what about? I'd like to know where everyone else here stands. As far as obviously, I'm going to assume you're a nihilist, realistic nihilist.
Right.
That would be probably a logical deduction. Aronra, you're what exactly would you call yourself?
I'm an epistivist.
Epistatist.
Epistivist.
Would you care to find that?
Yeah.
Is that like an empiricist?
Yeah, it is an empiricist in another sense, yes. An epistivist is one who rejects faith.
Okay. Would you say that you have faith that faith is false?
That's ridiculous.
That sounds silly.
So if you don't have faith that faith is a bad thing, then you must have knowledge that it is a bad thing.
No, I have
Absolutely.
evidence that it is a bad thing.
Well, evidence isn't proof, which means you don't know
Evidence is actually proof. Proof is a preponderance of evidence. So proof literally is evidence. Evidence is not proof until evidence becomes a preponderance.
I guess what I would say is we're equivocating, because I would say proof, when I say proof, I'm saying proof in terms of, I guess, necessity. It cannot be false. It must be true. And you're saying proof as in something which makes it reasonable to accept something as truth. Is that what you mean by?
I deal in very few absolutes. Proof, what I use in the only applicable term that can apply here is in the legal sense, where proof is a preponderance of evidence.
So do you
Obviously, obviously, mathematic proof cannot apply, and in the positive sense, there is no scientific application of proof that can apply.
Do you absolutely reject faith?
Yes.
Okay, so
Because
that is one absolute you do deal in.
Right. I said I deal with very few absolutes. However, since faith is the most dishonest position it is possible to have, then I have to reject it outright.
So you're saying that you have a value, I guess a morality, which values honesty?
Yes.
And where do you derive that?
Well, I think it comes from my daddy when he said that a man's word is his honor.
Well, that's a fair point, but where do you derive it? Where do you ground it? Philosophically, what gives you the right to say that your morality is something any of us should be concerned with?
Because only accurate information has practical application, and this is why truth is valued over lies.
Right, and I'm happy to hear that you value truth, but truth is something which is absolute.
No, it isn't.
If it isn't, then we have very little to gain by discussing truth, because
when you want to talk
absolute,
about truth as an absolute, then you're talking about knowledge ability that is beyond that of mortal men.
Well, don't confuse knowledge of truth being absolute, that would be omniscience, with truth itself being absolute.
All right, then in that sense, there are some other absolutes that I could add. I could say that it is an absolute truth that there was never a global flood, and that the story of the Tower of Babel did not happen the way the Bible described. Both of those, absolute truth.
Okay, well, I mean, I can see that you clearly have strong convictions about an external reality, external world, which can be objectively known.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Since I am a societal animal, and I have evolved as a social animal, and therefore how I behave to my family, friends, and fellows is selectively engineered in my genome, that and the derivations from this should be eliminated from the gene pool by one means or another, and typically are usually in the form of jail sentences. Mm-hmm. We have a definition that what is moral would be that which enhances happiness or does not victimize another or something like that. And whereas that which is immoral is something that is going to be impeding on other people or causing unnecessary harm and suffering, and so on. So I have a simple definition which is established by the evolution of my species. And it's easy to see how I derive that. It's a necessity for our biology. But as a Christian theist, I'm confused. How does a Christian theist base their morality? On what could you possibly base that?
Well, I would base it, before I answer that, Strife, are you okay with this? Because obviously we've already
I was going to say we're drifting on topic, but also I have to note that my XSplit just had an error. So right when I click OK, it's going to crash.
Don't click OK then.
I know, but eventually it'll do it automatically. So just to note, if we go off the air, I'll bring it back up in a few seconds.
So should we follow this tangent, or should we?
I only went this way because you asked me.
I know, and I take
it was the obvious bait, and I have the answer to that. The Christian argues that the atheist doesn't have anything to base his morality on, when in fact it is the reverse that is true.
Well,
there is no objective standard from a Christian standpoint. God can kill everybody he wants to, and he can tell you that it is bad to kill, and then in the next verse he can tell you to kill. And whatever it is, as long as God says it, you have a subjective standard which comes from the guy who's pretending to speak for the God. And so the rules keep constantly changing. You're on shifting sand.
Okay, Aaron, let me take like as short of a time as I can to quickly answer that, because I don't want to draw this tangent out, and I'm the one that started it. So, but since you made that statement, I will respond. The standard from which the Christian theist derives morality is an objective, externally existing reality, that is God. God is eternal, and God is not changing. So
Okay, so
since
can I jump
God,
in there for a
well,
moment? Okay, go ahead.
well, hold on. Since God does not change, God's nature is the definition of good or moral. So when you
Okay.
say that God can simply will something to be good at random, that would be called voluntarism. Some
Like,
Christians actually hold that view. A Calvinist would probably tell you that that's true, but I highly disagree. I highly disagree with that. God's will flows from God's nature, and God's nature does not change. So
Okay.
it's never going to, the fact that it is wrong, in a general sense, it is wrong to commit murder. That is not something that God could arbitrarily change at any moment. That is an eternal truth.
Um,
However, God is capable, just like humans do. There can be overriding circumstances. It's actually very simple. With regards to what you said, however, your statement is open to the huge gaping problem of you are simply assuming, rather than giving any justification, that we should be concerned with the welfare of the human species as a whole, that human survival and human comfort
if
is an objectively existing standard of morality, when I could
if
just as easily say that's arbitrary and false. However, we could spend 2 hours talking about this, but we're not supposed to be, and I got us here, so let's get back to where we're
yeah,
supposed to.
but before Aaron replies, and then we'll move on. Realistic analyst wants to reply.
Well,
Okay.
I just wanted to say something about what you said, and this is the conversation I have with anybody who believes that there is that God is some sort of nature of reality, like reality is his qualifications, and therefore there is some way to delineate from reality. And this to me sounds so senseless, because you're saying that God's nature is by virtue of the fact that it exists, it is moral. So if anything is immoral, it technically does not exist, to me, is what it sounds like you're saying. Because you're saying God is existence and all of the nature possible. It is the external world. You're saying but then you say, unless you're trying to create a dichotomy between what goes on in a person's mind as not real and what there is this external reality, it seems to me like immorality is impossible under your
No,
definition
because
of.
I don't deny the reality of immoral acts or sin or evil. I believe those are objectively real. But the reason that they exist is because of the objective existence of the good. St. Augustine put it
Hold
when
on.
he said that evil exists only as a corruption of what is good. Evil cannot exist. Evil is dependent on good, but good is not dependent on evil.
Right, okay.
And I would have to contest that, of course, sin is not an objective thing.
Well, of
It
course,
doesn't
you say
actually
that.
exist.
I mean,
Well,
obviously, he was.
because this is what I'm
Obviously,
saying.
I would say if it were objectively verifiable, then whether I believe in it or not, you would still be able to verify it. But since
I believe
you
it is.
can't, because
No, I believe it is.
I
believe
know
it's
that you
objectively
believe
true.
that, but when you fail to show it objectively, then are you going to concede that it's not an objective standard? You
I
can't show me that
I don't
sin
have to show you, Aaron. I know.
exists.
I really don't have to show anyone
If
that.
it were objective, you would have to show it.
No, it is so objective that nobody needs. Do I need to show you that you are breathing air right now?
Yeah,
You know you're
if,
breathing
if, if that's if that's objective, you tell me that's objective, and I can agree because I am breathing air. Okay, so that's objective. Now you bring up something else, right? You bring up unicorns. They're objective. Sure. Well, no. I'm going to demand that you back that up.
But Aaron, I've already heard you, in the short time that we've been in this conversation, I've already heard you make statements which imply the objective reality of sin or evil.
No.
I've already heard you say that.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have. I heard
No,
you
I
talk.
haven't, and it's a recorded call.
Well, it
This is
is.
a recorded conversation. I
Well,
never supported the idea that there is a sin. There's no such thing.
Well, sin.
I said moral and immoral, but I
Well-
did not say sin.
Well-
Sin does not exist.
Well, okay. If by sin you mean, when you say that you don't believe in sin, it sounds to me like you're really just saying you don't believe in God. But if
I don't believe in God or magic or ghosts or any
I
of
know,
that.
I understand that, but you do believe in the concept of an objective reality and an objective morality, and by virtue of that, that is what sin is. Sin is an immoral act.
Can I just? I feel like I didn't drive this point home enough, because you're saying that nature, in essence, is the being that is God, and you're saying evil is a corruption of what is good. Now you're forced into a very difficult corner here, because you're saying if God is nature completely in totality.
No, that's called pantheism. That's pantheism. What you're describing.
What you're talking about, you're saying what is good is the nature of God. So you posit a nature outside of God, then, right?
No, God is not outside of God. It is God.
So
Okay,
God.
so-
This is what I'm saying. So God is then the arbiter of immorality. God created immorality then.
No, because God did not
Isaiah
create
45, 5, 6, and 7. I made good and I create evil, and there is none beside me.
Well, I could open my Bible and we could have a big debate about that
And
passage.
we could go on forever, and I'd come out on top.
Well, that is a statement of faith on your part, but which you said you didn't.
It's not faith. It's not faith. You understand that you base your beliefs either on faith or you base them on evidence. And after decades of doing this and having the same conversation thousands of times over, I know where it's going to go.
Okay, well,
It doesn't get any different.
And that's okay, but Strife, why don't you step in here and redirect us?
Well, I was trying to say, would you define information? That's pretty much where it all started, and then Realistic brought up idealism. And then...
Well, I have to object to his definition, too, because he said it had to be interpreted in symbols. That's not the case.
Well, let's not...
Information could be interpreted in many different ways.
Wait, let's check in one
If I may interject here.
Mm-hmm.
Kenbei, when you said information as symbols, information can also be words.
Yeah,
which
it's
are
not...
Which are no. Let me finish. Which are not symbols. Gestures are not symbols.
And neither is evidence, because you can use facts.
I can convey you information. DNA would be information as well.
And
that's
so
not
would facts. Basic facts are information, and they're not interpreted as symbols. So the definition doesn't work. It's not all-inclusive.
I never claimed that the definition that I stated was an all-inclusive or exhaustive definition, and I am not really qualified to attempt an all-inclusive definition of that. I would not. It is one of the hardest things to define, and a lot more educated men than I have said that it is not something that they would do. So I will not attempt to define in an exhaustive way what information is. No.
Okay.
But I will tell you that it is a non-physical reality, and I will tell you that it's also something that we all kind of inherently understand in a way that is really not necessarily possible to put into words, at least not very effectively. But we understand what information is. Information is ideas, the transmission of ideas through a physical medium.
Let's also say that it doesn't have to be non-physical, because evidence is physical and evidence is information.
Well, information goes beyond the physical medium. A physical medium is
excuse me,
just
Kenbei.
that, a physical...
Kenbei,
yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah.
When you said information was the conveying of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
I can get information right now from my environment to tell me what time it is without looking at a clock.
Right.
And that is not an idea.
Yeah, that's an idea. What time it is an idea?
Because I'm measuring the angle of the sun in the sky right now. That's not an idea.
Anything that is in your head, a conscious state of mind, is an idea.
Not in my head.
Yeah, are you in my head when I'm looking at the screen?
So if there's no one on a planet at the dusk hour, is it still dusk? I mean, is it still a 12-hour day? If that planet would have been, if somebody were there to measure it, it would be a 12-hour day, and then there's nobody there to measure it, would it be a 12-hour day then?
That question is loaded in favor of an atheistic worldview, because...
as everything in reality tends to be, yes.
I think he's presenting his position anyway. I think I think this is a misrepresentation of his position because when he's talking about information as ideas, though I might disagree with whether or not it is ideas conveyed, but what he is saying about time being an idea, time is a fabrication. It's an arbitrary standpoint.
How we measure it is.
Right, but I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that there's not like a physical that there's like. Okay, it's hard to say that there's like an objective 12 noon because we arbitrarily decided what 12 noon is.
You
right?
could change the metric.
Right,
It
exactly.
wouldn't matter. How we measure it is the idea, but the fact that time exists is not an idea. That exists regardless of us.
All right. Well, I mean, I think the
I mean, in another respect, we could do the number of rotations around the sun in a single orbit. Again, that wouldn't be an idea. That's just
Right.
a physical fact.
Right.
So, please, I'd like to know, I think I have a pretty good idea, but I would just like to know for sure, am I the only theist that's involved in this discussion right now?
Well, possibly I could bring Donald in, and he's a theist.
So yes, though, the answer is
Well,
yes.
yes, I guess.
Okay. What about all of you? Are you in agreement in terms of because Aronra, you're clearly devoted to a type of empiricism which believes in an externally existing objective reality. Are the rest of you also believing in that same concept?
What was it again?
An external objective reality.
I'm on no one's side. I'm a freaking nihilist. I couldn't possibly say what I believe.
Well,
I mean, and that's the unfortunate thing because I'm not too up on nihilists. So, my impression from what I was always told was that a nihilist didn't believe in anything, and what exactly that means, I don't know. If it is reality an illusion, what the hell does that mean?
well, I mean,
Here, let me give you.
we know that you see, you can tell partly what a person believes by their actions. Actions speak louder than words. And this person is involved in a discussion about truth, and he doesn't appear to think that he's here just as a joke or a waste of time. So, and he also appears to be under the belief that we are all as human beings capable of having a rational discussion about truth and coming to some kind of legitimate conclusion about this external reality. And therefore, we know a lot about what the realistic nihilist believes. He believes in the rationality of human beings. He believes in an external reality. He believes in truth.
Whoa, man.
Because if he didn't believe in those things, it would really be inexplicable why he would be taking part in a conversation like this.
Exactly. It
So
is
there you go.
absolutely inexplicable.
Well, I think if a person cannot live according to the worldview that they're propounding, then that's a strong reason to discount. Talking about empiricism or objective verification, I think one of the strongest verifications of a system would be, is it livable? Can you live in accordance with this in a consistent way? Or do the words that you say consistently contradict your actions? If the words that come out of your mouth consistently contradict your actions, then you are a walking contradiction.
Wait a minute. But you're making a preponderance that a contradiction is relevant to truth. You say from a humanistic perspective, you say truth is this, truth is conceptualized. I can conceive of truth. You're talking about something that has its own independent veracity, independent of your conceptions. So when you say the law of non-contradiction has to be so, you're saying...
I'm not here because I want to talk about my favorite flavor of ice cream. I don't think any of us are here because we want to share our subjective feelings about our favorite feelings in the world. We're here because we're trying to talk about truth in an objective way. If you don't believe in that, you need to question what in the world you're doing here.
I'm not here.
You are here.
I'm not.
Well, I speak, therefore I am. You are speaking to me, therefore
right, that's a presupposition, but you always, when you're dealing with truth, there are three competing ideas of truth, and there is always one that has to be axiomatic. So obviously, I have no other choice but to go down to a fundamental base of axiomatic truth, or I can't communicate. I understand that. There has to be some sort of axiomatic truth, but that in no way is indicative of absolute truth.
I don't know what you mean when you're making a dichotomy that I don't understand. Axiomatic truth versus, what was the other one you said? Objective or absolute truth?
Right. There has to be a fundamental, like you say, I exist. That presupposes an I that can exist, right? By speaking, you're saying, okay, the law of non-contradiction has to be true by virtue of the fact that I'm speaking, right?
If
But
the law of
that's only
contradiction,
an axiomatic truth, and what is logical is only relevant to a species that thinks logically.
hold on now.
Truth has to be logical. It's
Are-
subjugating what is true to your perception.
No, listen. If you do not believe in the validity of the law of non-contradiction, if you're questioning that, you must realize that you have just broken down our very ability to communicate in any way at all.
Absolutely.
Every sentence that you utter depends on the law of non-contradiction. When you say,
I'm a relativist. Yes, I understand this.
but then we are not communicating right now.
Exactly.
See, this is why I don't get into philosophy.
Right.
Well, I mean, you are admitting you're giving away all the rope that is necessary to hang you right now, because you are admitting we're not having a conversation meaningfully, and yet everyone here knows, including you, we know that that's a false statement. Otherwise, we would not be sitting here right now.
Let me see if I can wrap my head around this. When Brahma wakes up, we all cease to exist.
Are you talking to me or him?
I'm talking to the realistic nihilist.
Okay.
I'm not saying any of that. I would say that speech in any way is misrepresentative of my position. So if you think that,
Then why are you speaking?
because I can't I'm not trying to represent my position.
Well, then what are you doing here?
Well, see, that's the thing. I would have to say that technically I'm not here, because when I talk about what...
Okay, we will
Is
continue.
the girl
this
in the
conversation.
green dress here?
Is she part of the argument?
Well,
Okay.
like I said, I'm a relativist.
I'm not trying to poke fun at you. I'm not trying to insult you, but your own statements are making it a waste of time for us to even continue discussing things, because you're making statements like, I am not here, we are not communicating,
Right.
and you need to understand that that undercuts. You're not living consistently with that right now. Because if you really believe that, then it would not make sense for you to turn on your computer and dial into or log on to this conversation, because
Why is what is sensical decided by you?
it's not. But you're ignoring what is sensical in your statements. Yet your actions are actually in accordance with what is sensical. So
My actions are in accordance with perceived sensibility, of course, and that's why I said I'm a relativist.
why are you not sitting on the opposite end of the room and speaking into the wall right now?
What would that do? Like what?
Well, it
Wait.
doesn't matter.
Oh.
What-
Hold on there, Canby. How do
Yeah,
you know he's
also-
on the opposite
wait,
end of the room
Atlas,
right now, speaking into a wall?
I'm sorry?
How do you know he's not on the opposite end of the room, speaking into the wall?
Because I actually...
There would be a wall, like on the other side of his camera right now.
Because I presuppose the basic reliability of human sense perception.
That's
And Aaron-
axiomatic, and that's what I'm talking about.
Aronra does as well. And
This
so
is what I'm
we
talking
actually
about. That's-
agree on that.
Right. That's
You're questioning that.
I don't presuppose that. I've discovered that through evidence.
No, you can't discover...
I don't know that there's a wall that he's talking to, but I know the evidence of the situation.
Okay, I think you have a misunderstanding. The basic reliability of sense perception is not something which can be discovered, because that would be circular reasoning.
Of course it can when you open your eyes
No, that is
for
circular
the first
reasoning.
time. For the first time.
You said you didn't get into philosophy.
Right, and we're not in
No,
philosophy now. We're
Well,
talking
we
about
are.
understanding your
Philosophy
senses. when you discover something, when you experience evidence of things. This is not presupposition. Presupposition means before you've experienced evidence of things. You assume that they are true before you have investigated them. I have already investigated them. I have not presupposed. Do not ever attempt to lump me in the same pen as presuppositionalist on anything.
I would never lump you in terms of what you say you believe. However, I firmly believe that every single human being has presuppositions, whether they like it or not.
Well, you firmly believe in Jesus, so it really doesn't matter.
I think, Canbid, you're getting the word assumptions mixed up with presuppositions.
Well, I would use them, they are more or less synonymous here, because we're talking about something that you must...
I don't do that either.
Well, you must believe this. You must admit the reality of this before you can even do investigation.
I can admit the probability.
No, you must
based on evidence.
Okay, what you're doing is actually circular reasoning, and that is a fundamental philosophical...
Except that I'm not doing that. I'm basing everything, but I'm not. I'm basing everything on evidence and my experience, not on faith, not on assumptions. I'm basing what I perceive of the realistic nihilist from what I see from his image. I'm basing this on my knowledge of the probabilities. He's probably talking into a computer rather than an iPhone or a magic mirror. He's probably got a wall shortly after that, but that's not necessarily true. He could be having a large room that I can't detect there. I'm not making presuppositions. I'm not making assumptions. I'm only following the probabilities here.
No, you are assuming, number one, that your mind, your conscious self, is capable of rational thought.
Yes, and I've demonstrated that by the same argument that you tried to use.
No, you haven't demonstrated that at all. You have to presuppose that before you...
I don't presuppose that. I don't presuppose that. You will not apply those words to me because they do not work in my case. Now, if you just want to argue and just want to get heated, then keep trying to use these inflammatory words in my presence. Otherwise, avoid them and get to the topic. I do not presuppose that I have a rational mind. I've experienced my rational mind. Even if Brahma wakes up and we no longer exist, even if I'm just a brain in a jar and this is the matrix, the reality in which I exist is still real from my perspective. The laws of reality still apply to me, even if I were a nihilist and didn't believe in them. They still apply to me. It's not presupposed. It's not assumed.
Well, I'm certainly not trying to create a heated situation, so,
Could we possibly go back on topic?
That's going to be hard because the problem is...
Well, pretty much, can we start with this? Kenbei, what questions do you have about evolution or disagreements on it do you have? That's something we could start from, I guess.
Okay, let's start from that. So,
and also to note, someone in the audience asked, what do you define worldview as? That's the last thing we'll do in philosophical stuff. And
what do I define what?
Worldview as.
Worldview. Like I was trying to say before, it's not something that we need to get too technical about. A worldview is your set of basic beliefs about reality through which your experiences are interpreted and filtered. It's your fundamental view about reality. So, I think realistic nihilist, he's not sure exactly what to think about reality yet. He doesn't seem to have a strong view on that, and yet, as I've already been able to show, he does obviously, through his actions, he does believe in some of these things that he at least would claim not to believe in, like external reality, like the law of non-contradiction, etc. Again, actions do speak louder than words when it comes to the worldview. So the way that you behave betrays what you really think more than...
Oh my God, dude! This amount of misrepresentation is insane.
Well, I think someone who represents, your actions represent you, and the fact that you're having a conversation represents that you obviously know that meaningful conversation is possible. But anyway, the answer to the question
All right.
is, view is, what do you view about reality? Aronra, he's a non-theist or an atheist, an empiricist. He only wants to believe in that which he directly experiences,
No.
or has some sort of, in his mind, reasonable reason to believe.
A number of scientists, including Einstein, have said if you can't measure it, it isn't real. Real things, everything that really exists within this reality has properties.
What about that statement you just made?
What about
just
what
said
statement that I just made?
The statement that you just made cannot be measured.
Yes, it can.
No.
What
Yes,
are
it
you
can.
talking about?
Hold on. Yes, it can.
Quote,
Because this is a recorded call. We can go back and look at the timestamp, see when it started, and see when it ended.
And not only that, but it's
quote the
demonstrably true.
statement that he made.
It's demonstrably true that everything that really exists in this reality has properties. And once you know what those properties are, you can use those to detect whatever it is. Anything that is not positively indicated is an empty assertion.
Okay, you're confusing the medium which carries information with the information itself. So, Strife, you said that we could measure Aronra's statement. The problem is that's like saying that we can measure the number 4, the number 4 being the idea of the number 4. We can measure that idea by taking...
represent something?
Well, listen, what I'm saying is your statement is akin to saying that we are measuring the number 4 if we take a piece of paper which has in the Arabic system of numerals the number 4 printed on it, and we take a ruler and we measure the ink on that paper. And then
why don't you take 4 oranges and put them on the table?
No, he's right. You can measure the number 4, too. You can measure the number 4 that's written on the table. You can measure the quantity 4. You can measure the abstract concept of 4. And you can demonstrate, you can either look at the recording or read the recording or hear the recording of that we're doing on this conversation and verify that I just said that, but you can also objectively demonstrate the accuracy of my statement that everything that really exists has properties.
I think the discrepancy would be with the word measurement. What are we talking about when we're talking about measurement? I think there's two different ideas of measurement going on here, and I kind of see what Kenbei is saying there, but at the same, because he's kind of talking to like a qualia.
Right. Well, what he did was he cut in before I could get to the idea, really, and that is that you can't negate all of the things that people might be able to imagine that might be true. Well, maybe there's a 7-headed chicken, and or maybe there's a teapot in celestial orbit, and so on. You can make up all kinds of things, but to assert them as fact when they are not evidently true is fundamentally dishonest. So
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Then this is my biggest problem with faith, is because that's what all religions do. They assert as fact that which is not evidently true. You have to have evidence to, in order for a scientist to say that something is true, he has to show an overwhelming preponderance that it is true. A scientist can't even say that something is probably true unless he can already show positively indicative evidence showing that probability. But when you're just asserting things, well, you can just say anything you want to believe and then call it truth and pretend to know things you don't know, and that's the problem with faith.
Well, I agree partially with your statement. But at the same time, I think what you fail to realize is that the very same attack that you are making against quote-unquote faith, the same exact thing that you just said can be equally directed against the worldview or philosophy or whatever you want to call it of Darwinism.
Exactly not even possible. Now, there are the lies of equivocation, which all creationists always resort to, and that is where you say that evolution is religious, or that creationism is scientific, or that you have evidence of creationism, or that there's no evidence of evolution. All of these are lies meant to create this illusion of equal choice, like there's some reasonable option for the non-scientific standpoint. There is not. Creation is wholly not evidenced. Religion is not of evidence. Science is not at all about faith. I do not allow the lies of equivocation to enter into the conversation. Now, what you said about Darwinism, the word Darwinism is itself a lie, meant to present the illusion, again, the lie of equivocation, that Darwinism is a religious belief somehow similar to creationism, when in fact, Darwinism is the pre-Mendelian concept of natural selection before the integration that rendered it the modern synthesis with Mendelian genetics. That obviously is not the intention that you had when you used it. From this point on, if you use the word Darwinism, understand that you are talking about the 19th century concept, because that's what the word really means, and not the post-Mendelian influence.
Well,
And it certainly is not a religious belief. Your attack, and I would welcome you to try to do this because you're going to fail, that attack that you said could be made against Darwinism cannot. And you're welcome to make an attempt.
If I believed what you just said were true, I would be a Darwinist. Now, let me
There's
tell you.
no such thing as a Darwinist.
Well, there is.
Well, there is not, for the very reason that I just gave you. Unless you're stuck in the 19th century, you can't be a Darwinist. If your knowledge of evolution is beyond Mendel's influence, then Darwinism is not the way to go. You could be an evolutionist if you want to use that word, or you could just be an objective scientist, because there is not a religious word application for those who accept evolution, much like there isn't a religious word application for those who accept any other branch of science.
Well, I have had this exact same discussion with a number of people.
And you're still using the wrong definition? Why is that?
Well, that's because I don't believe it's wrong. And
I can prove that it's wrong.
Well,
just
can you
did.
please explain why
I just did explain why that's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me explain.
Would you like to get out a dozen or so scientific resources and show me where the actual universities teaching evolution ever apply the word Darwinist in the way that only religious apologists do, and only when they're using lies of equivocation? Would you like to show me where any honest scientist has ever used the lie you just did in the way that you just did? Or do you already know full on that what you're doing is a dishonest straw man?
No, when people disagree about things, it is frequently the case that people will use different words. It's like
okay, then once again, you're using the wrong word. Correct your definition. You just said that after I proved that my definition is correct and yours is wrong, that you're going to continue to use yours because you're not going to be reasoned with. Here's the way to prove it. Look up the scientific applications. See where you can find the word Darwinist from any university or any scholarly source that teaches evolution. If you cannot, then look up the word straw man, and you will see that that is what you're applying.
Okay, the problem with your statement is it assumes that there is a neutral third party that we can go to arbitrate. Yes, it does, because you're asking me to look for the word Darwinist in a Darwinist textbook, and they won't.
Not in a Darwinist textbook, in an actual science textbook. See, now, if I were to misrepresent your position, and you call me out for misrepresenting it, what source would you send me to clarify or verify your position? If I misrepresent it, who do I turn to? How do I find out what your position is?
Let me explain something about linguistics. When people
Are you presupposing that there is no source that I could go to find out what your position is?
When people use words, what they mean by it is what it means.
Thank you, Humpty Dumpty. Have you ever read through the looking glass? When I use a word, it means precisely what I mean it to mean, no more, no less. In other words, it's nonsense. You're using the word incorrectly with full knowledge that you're using it incorrectly.
No.
Now, if I misrepresent your belief, if I misrepresent Christianity to say that it is, let's say, Unitarian, or that it's not Trinitarian, or that if I were to misrepresent Christianity to say that you believe in multiple gods, Satan being one of them, regardless whether I could verify that with the definition of what a deity is, you would tell me that I'm misrepresenting your religion, and I would ask you to prove that I'm misrepresenting it. And if I did, you would have to show me a source that verifies what your position actually is. Now, you would send me to a theological source which represents your position, would you not?
No, because we are this.
Okay, so
this
you're
is-
saying that there is
you
no
are
way,
saying
then I'm able to represent or misrepresent your belief any way that I want to, because
No.
there's no way to verify what Christians as a whole believe.
Give me just a moment here to
Go,
speak.
wait. But can we just get what your definition?
That's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm trying to do. When I, and by the way, this is true of anyone else that I've ever heard that uses the word Darwinist. This is what they mean. It is essentially a synonym for evolutionist, and it means someone who follows in the tradition of thought, which, though it did not begin with Darwin, it was popularized in the 19th century by Darwin.
Now
And
look
for
up the
that
word.
reason,
Now look
hold
up
on,
the word.
Now hold on. Now, I acknowledge that there are many people who object to that word, but I believe that they object to it on partisan grounds.
No,
It's
we object
simply-
to it because of look up the word pejorative and then you'll figure it out.
Well,
We
okay.
object to it because it is intentionally insulting. It is not accurate.
What's wrong with Darwin?
There's nothing wrong with
Well,
Darwin.
then why would it be insulting?
Because you're trying to present Darwin as some deified character as if it's the lies of equivocation again, where you're trying to say someone who follows in the tradition of Charles Darwin, even though it didn't. We're not following in the tradition of Charles Darwin.
You objectively are.
No, I
You
objectively
objectively
am
are.
not.
Yes, you
Charles
are.
Darwin was wrong about a few things, and I call those things out in my videos. I do not follow in the tradition of Darwin. That would make it a religious conviction. That's another lie of
And I
equivocation.
believe it is. It is a religious stuff.
You may believe incorrectly. You believe a lot of things that are incorrect, but you are using a pejorative, a deliberately insulting word, which is inapplicable to the matter. And were I to misrepresent your faith, if I were to misrepresent Christianity in general, you would direct me to theological sources that would correct me. Now, if I say that you are misrepresenting my position, I, of course, am going to deliver you to actual science sources. That's where straw man comes from. And then words somehow suddenly don't mean anything anymore, Humpty Dumpty, because you want to use the wrong words because you like using the wrong words, even when you know they're wrong.
Let me interject here for a second.
Realistic.
Because it's funny that you say that he's a Darwinist because he follows some sort of tenets of Darwin. I'm not getting hung up on semantics when I say tenets of Darwin, but you're saying he's modeling himself after Darwin. But really, Darwin was just inquisitive about the world and made observations and was worried about science and science and theories in science. So if you want to be accurate, why don't you just call Aronra a scientist then?
Or scientism.
Well,
Yeah.
no, scientism is something different. But
Because
You
that's
know-
what he's right. He's Darwin was a scientist, and you're saying, because he rightly admits that he says Darwin was wrong about things. So he's not taking any religiosity in it. He's not saying, oh, Darwin, but if you're saying the method, he's using the method that Darwin used. Darwin used a method of observation, which is greatly used by scientists, right? So why don't you call him a scientist?
Not only that,
Okay.
but remember that what made the modern synthesis, the thing that Darwin was looking for, was he identified correctly that there were inheritable units of information from both parents, from mother and father, and he didn't know what they were. This was the mystery to him. And Gregor Mendel, the monk that was working with the pea plants and discovered genetics, he realized, having read Darwin's work, that he had stumbled across the answer that Darwin was looking for. So Mendel, of course, excitedly sent the manuscript to Darwin to give him the answer. The sad thing and the tragedy here is that Darwin didn't read German, and apparently this was too close to the end of his life for him to find somebody who could read German to tell him what this was. When Darwin died, that manuscript was sitting inside his desk unopened. How upsetting is that? The man was sitting on the answer he was looking for. Now, would you say that Gregor Mendel was a Darwinist?
I don't believe that Gregor Mendel believed in common descent.
Gregor Mendel wrote to Darwin to give him the answer that Darwin was looking for. And
Okay.
Carolus Linnaeus was also grasping for that same answer, which was answered ultimately by common descent. When Carolus Linnaeus, also a creationist, challenged the scientific community to explain that, or to verify that there is a difference between humans and apes. And the only thing they could come up with was his contemporaries manufactured arbitrarily a completely separate clade to put the other apes in so that they could pretend that we were separate. And it wasn't until phylogenetics, just over a decade ago, proved finally, conclusively, what we already knew for 300 years, that arbitrary construct of the clade Pongo was inapplicable. Carolus Linnaeus was right.
Okay.
And Mendel was right.
In order to facilitate the discussion, what word would you like me to use? I'll use what word you want me to use, because I don't want to spend any more time arguing about a word. We should be talking about the actual meat of this discussion and not the meaning of a word. So I have
the feeling that we're going to be going over the meaning of the words a lot, because every discussion that I have with a theist ends up coming with definitions, and they want to argue every definition. It's like we were talking about just before the show began. There's some website that's offering evidence, or they want to give $1 million for evidence of evolution. Now, we know that when we look at what their terms will be, because this is a wholly dishonest organization, right? It's creationism, wholly dishonest. They're going to use a misdefined use of evolution. It's not going to mean what the National Academy of Science would recognize it as to be, and it wouldn't be what any scientific organization that studies and teaches and analyzes evolution, what they recognize it to be. They're going to use something else. They're going to mean something coming from nothing, or dogs giving birth to cats, or something giving birth to something else that is completely different or fundamentally different than whatever its parents were. They're going to use a nonsense straw man definition. And then for the word evidence, they're going to use something else for that too. They're not going to mean a preponderance. They're not going to mean a collection of facts that are exclusively concordant of this option over any other. They're not going to use the same definition of evidence as everybody else. They're going to use mathematical proof or something like that. It's going to be a straw man again. They have to protect that self so they can present this illusion that it hasn't been addressed.
Okay, so
because I can give evidence for evolution all day, but I'm not going to be able to get a creationist to fork over his $1 million.
Okay, Aaron, I understand everything that you're saying. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm very skeptical that it will be possible for me to break through the barrier of, what is the word here? I guess just partisanship, if you want to look at it that way. Through which you are seeing this. You are seeing it.
I'm not the one. I'm looking at you through a barrier that you have presented. I don't have the barrier.
No, you do, because you're already issuing statements that all creationists are dishonest. That is a partisan statement.
Absolutely.
You realize that, right?
Yes,
Okay,
it is not possible. Let me explain this, because I can demonstrate this. It is not possible to defend creationism honestly. At some point in the discussion, you're going to come to a realization where you either will remain creationist or you will remain honest, but you can't be both.
Well, that is both a partisan statement and it is a statement.
It's a demonstrable fact.
It's
a demonstrable fact.
I think
mind is made up firmly before you even look at anything.
Wrong. I've done this for decades. Remember, decades?
Yes, but that doesn't
mean
that you've been doing. That doesn't mean that you have been neutral throughout these decades.
It doesn't matter. I know what the facts are.
Right now is far from neutral.
There will be a point when you realize that you can either be honest or you can be creationist, but you can't be both. That's just the truth of it.
I would say the same thing about being a evolutionist, if you want to look at it.
Again, you have to do the lies of equivocation. There has to be a balance somewhere. You have to project your own faults onto others. That's what they always do. That's what all these conversations are always about.
Okay.
But if we come down to definitions, I can demonstrate everything that need be demonstrated or shown to you to your satisfaction to verify that evolution is true. You can't show me any verifiable fact or truth in your own perspective.
I
There's no
absolutely can't.
part.
That's
You
false.
absolutely cannot, but you will have the opportunity to fail. I challenge you to show me anything about your religious beliefs that you can verify are true over the religious beliefs of any other religion or any other believer or hearing. Okay? You're welcome to do that, but it has to be an objectively verifiable fact. Now, I can do that. I can show you that. I can show you that all day. You just said I cannot, but I definitely can. You cannot.
Strife, do you have anywhere you want to lead this
Well, I was going to
discussion?
say, I would have said young Earth creationists have to be dishonest and stuff at most. Older creationists.
It really doesn't matter. If you're arguing against evolution, which is a verifiable fact of biology, at some point you have to deny the reality. You have to deny the biology. You have to deny the facts. And since all creationist organizations, and I can demonstrate this too, all creationist organizations have a statement of faith wherein they state proudly on their own websites, as if it were something to be proud of, that they assume an erroneous conclusion of absurdity from the onset, though they don't phrase it this way, of course, and where they refuse to ever admit when they're wrong. Every creationist organization posts a statement of faith. Answers in Genesis, Institute for Creation Research, all of them.
Can I?
And all of these statements say that they will not allow evidence that contradicts the Bible. They won't consider it.
Hold on. I want to know, because like I think there could be a problem with defining something as a creationist and not like specifically a young Earth creationist, because I don't.
Okay,
really...
I can give a definition for general creationism. Creationism is not simply the belief that there is a God who created, because Ken Miller believes that there is a God who created, but he is also an evolutionist. He is not a creationist. Now, and I'll use the word evolutionist for lack of the word that he's searching for. There shouldn't have to be one in this case, but I'll allow him to use the word evolutionist for this conversation. Ken Miller is not a creationist because a creationist objects specifically to evolution, but in more generally, they object to methodological naturalism. They oppose the scientific method, both in practice and principle.
Well, Aaron, you just revealed a major problem right there, because you just made a statement that methodological naturalism is the same thing as the scientific method, and
That's
that
correct.
could not be
And
further.
you can look it up.
Wait,
and you can look it up.
Wait, Candy.
Except that you can look it up, and yeah, that's what it means. Look
Hold
it
on.
up.
Hold on.
You're sitting in front of a computer.
Well, I think it falls on Kenbei to elaborate on how methodological naturalism is not science, and then I think that's what I think then you need to respond with a rebuttal to how he defines it differently.
It depends on where it goes. Some places actually will put in parentheses that the scientific method is methodological naturalism. Others will have to go into a more depth explanation of it, that it has to be an analysis of objectively verifiable facts of the natural world. And this, of course, means methodological naturalism, that supernatural explanations don't have any merit, because unsupported speculation is of no value.
Right. Well,
you have to have you just like what I said before. You have to already have the evidence to support your conclusion before you even make the statement. Otherwise, it's not an honest statement. It is asserting as fact that which is not evidently true.
Right. Well,
Kenbei agreed that is a dishonest thing to do.
Well, I want to hear his definition.
Yeah, I would like to hear that too.
Okay. Well, actually, all right. Let me step back a second. My objection to methodological naturalism isn't entirely different from Aronra's objection to Darwinism. We're essentially getting into wordplay. I don't like the idea that the philosophy, even though we're talking methodological naturalism, I still don't like the philosophy of naturalism being tied.
We're not talking about philosophical naturalism. We're talking about methodological naturalism.
But I'm just saying, I I think it's when people start throwing around the word methodological naturalism, it's sort of a polite way, in most cases, of sort of getting around the fact that what we really are is philosophical naturalists.
Hold on,
Wrong.
Okay?
this is the point because
Wrong.
this is
The
evasion.
difference
This is
between
evasion from the question I asked you. I asked
right.
you to
Remember when I
define the
mentioned
difference between science and methodological naturalism, which
Okay.
you said. So
I'm
define the
willing
once
to.
difference.
I'm
again, if I
willing to.
may, I'm going to go back to Christians who accept evolution and who follow methodological naturalism, even
Okay.
though they believe in a
I'm
creator.
all right.
Okay, Francis Collin, Robert Bacher, Ken Miller are my favorite examples. They will not deviate from methodological naturalism with respect to the work that they do, because you cannot use supernatural explanations in magic. You can't say, and then a miracle happens. That's not science. Science demands the scientific method is methodological naturalism. By definition, yes, they are exactly the same thing. But philosophical naturalism is something different. These three men that I just mentioned all believe in a supernatural aspect behind evolution, behind the Big Bang, and behind the formation of the universe and everything else. So they are not philosophical naturalists, but they are methodological naturalism.
Let's try to clarify something. And that will help me decide whether I agree or disagree with your statement, because I'm not 100% sure whether I do agree or disagree right now on your statement about methodological naturalism. But this will help me decide. Uh, Being a legitimate follower of methodological naturalism, would it be possible to witness a miracle and recognize it as such?
Wait. I think we're getting between the definitions of the word metaphysical naturalism and methodological
Well,
naturalism.
no. I'm talking about methodological naturalism. If a methodological naturalist, and this is a hypothetical, so don't respond by saying that you don't believe in miracles, but respond understanding this is a hypothetical. Would a methodological naturalist be able to witness a miracle and recognize it as such?
What is a
No,
miracle?
and neither can anyone else.
I
There
don't
you
think
go.
so.
That's my problem with it. You just
Nobody
admitted.
could see a miracle and be able to recognize or verify that it is such. Case in point, my father goes to see Doug Henning at the magician in Las Vegas. He comes back believing that Doug Henning has actual supernatural powers. Man, I'm so sorry for my dad for being duped by this, but you see something, you can't explain it. That doesn't make it a miracle. It
Right.
doesn't have to be a miracle. You can't. Nobody could see a miracle and know that that was a miracle. Know that it wasn't an illusion, or
Right.
that it wasn't created by some natural means they can't explain.
Right,
But see,
exactly.
there's
How could you even test? How could you even go about testing whether or not it occurred by natural means? How could you at all
Or if
test?
it occurred at all,
Right,
because it could have been an hallucination.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make is that when you use this concept of methodological naturalism, you are weighting the scales in favor of philosophical naturalism at
No,
the
I'm not.
outset.
No, I'm
Yes, you
not.
are, because you
No,
are
I'm not.
saying that
For the reason I've already given, that you can believe that there's a God behind the natural universe all you want to. You can believe that when we leave this reality, that we will enter a supernatural reality. But to be a creationist, you have to reject scientific explanations, which means you have to reject natural explanations. Creationists reject evolution specifically because they reject methodological naturalism in general. They want to argue for supernatural creation, supernatural events, which science, of course, cannot admit. There can't be a supernatural explanation because there's nothing to indicate it, there's no evidence to test for it, and there's no way to verify it or falsify it. So we can't distinguish miracles from the illusions of delusion. There's no way to tell that it ever happened. There's no way to tell what it is. It becomes empty assertion and has absolutely no value, cannot add to the sum of
well,
human knowledge.
Wait.
Only
Before.
natural explanations can do that.
We got a caller.
Okay.
Wants to ask something. Let's see.
Okay.
And we'll continue after he asks his question. Okay. Let's see. Where is he? Here he is. And there we go. Hello, Max. Max?
Buongiorno. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. And now we can see you.
Oh, great. I should probably mute the stream then. Okay.
Well, we don't see you. We just see squiggly.
Yeah, you should clean
Oh,
your
that's
room
okay.
before you go on the air.
Holy crap.
Why?
Max, man, is your bed made?
No, there's people. My girlfriend's lying in it though, so who?
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the aftermath.
We know what you
but
were
we
doing.
won't go there. Now, anyway, Kenbei. Am I pronouncing that properly?
It's Kenbei, but I don't care.
Kenbei. Okay. I know I still screwed it up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter.
I'm under the understanding that there's obviously a wide variety of viewpoints on creationism. There's obviously young Earth, older Earth. There's many different viewpoints. But I guess what I'm trying to get at here is what is your specific definition for at least your viewpoint on creationism and how you perceive it?
Okay, I appreciate the question. So my viewpoint is young Earth creationism. So I've already said earlier, I am a Christian theist. I do believe in an external reality. I do believe in the validity of the scientific method. I do believe in, I guess a limited concept of methodological naturalism, but with the caveat that I think it's absolutely absurd to develop a system where you admit that under no circumstances can you ever witness. Now this is something you're saying a priori. Now, Aronra
I
said
don't
this
say anything a priori.
Yes, he did.
But it is verifiable. You can't witness a miracle and be able to verify that that's what it is.
But now you're equivocating between verification, like absolute knowledge.
That was
which
my
you
only
claim-
problem with it.
But
That was my problem with your statement, was you can't verify. You said, can a person of this particular philosophical perspective witness a miracle? And by the purpose of your question, I have to assume that it is actually a miracle, which of course I would never assume, but the purpose of your question requires that I assume that it's a legitimate miracle. And then the problem with it is, and verify that it is a miracle. Or you said recognize it as such. No, it is not possible for anybody to know whether that was actually a miracle or not,
Well,
regardless of their philosophical perspective.
Wait, stop. You already said you don't deal in very many absolutes. We don't,
Right.
you're setting a double standard where...
How?
Wait, I got a question for you, Kenbei. What means would you go to actually know this event was a miracle in the first place anyway?
Okay, do not equivocate between absolute knowledge and what it is reasonable to believe about a situation. I believe to have an honest scientific method, we need to have a scientific method which is metaphysically neutral. And the method that Aronra is
What the hell does metaphysically... Hold on a second.
Wait, Aaron.
We have to assume that there is a metaphysical in order to be metaphysically neutral. We have no evidence, zip, that there is a metaphysical. We do have... All we do have are the weird assertions of the least credible people in history to assume that there is any such thing that they believe in, and they've never been able to evidence it.
Aronra, you are just lumping in the vast majority of philosophers and all of the founders of modern science, and then you're calling those the least credible people.
Can I just note?
Not all the founders, no.
Before Max goes, the thing that I've noticed that I think Candy's against is metaphysical naturalism, which means that there only exists the natural, which is an absolute truth.
No, it's philosophical naturalism that he's against. He doesn't understand what methodological naturalism
I meant
means.
metaphysical.
No, I understand.
He said, and we'll find out that this is not true later, but he said that he supports the scientific method, but no aspect of the scientific method actually supports young Earth creationism.
Okay, well, that's a partisan statement. But Max Mann...
That's not a partisan statement. It's not a partisan statement. It's a demonstrable fact. You cannot show one thing. Remember, I've debated everybody. So bear in mind, I know what I'm talking about here. You will fail in this attempt. It's a simple challenge. Everybody fails at it. Okay? It's not a partisan statement. It's past history. It's a demonstrable fact. You cannot show me one verifiable fact that is exclusively concordant with young Earth creationism and does not already have another explanation, a better one, through regular natural science.
Okay,
Well, I'll
wait,
respond.
before you
I'll
reply.
respond to that in just a moment. Max Man,
Yeah.
I don't think I've fully answered your question. What aspect did I answer, and what remains to be answered of your question?
Oh, essentially, I was just trying to establish that, sort of what tangent of creationist you were, and you said young Earth creationist. Okay, so I could go in one direction with that, but I'm not. Essentially, the main question I want to ask you, especially since you noted that you support the scientific method, is that I don't understand how you can't find yourself at odds when comparing the scientific method to creationism, because creationism is solely based on words from a book to which we don't even understand the origins of. I mean, that literally flies completely in the face of how science works.
Not only
So
that,
how
but
do
if
you
he
reconcile
has,
those two?
right, not only that, but if he has a statement of faith, the statement of faith will be the polar opposite of the scientific statement, or the objective of science. They really are philosophically opposed completely.
Okay, what is the question again? The question is,
You-
how can I be a young Earth creationist
Well,
and still believe in the scientific method? Was that the question?
Well, essentially, I guess, a brief summary of it is, how is it that you can understand that science is based on objective facts and observable, repeatable results? Essentially, understand how science works and how it's proven to work, and then take a step back from that and essentially believe in something without any evidence or understanding of its origins whatsoever.
But I don't do that. I don't accept that premise. I don't believe anything without any evidence whatsoever, and I don't.
Well, you believe in a God, right?
And I don't believe that we are ignorant of the origins of the Bible. We are not ignorant. Let me explain something, and this is going to fly in the face of what Aronra wants you to believe, because he wants to paint a picture that says that science is all on one side of this debate, and unsupported faith is all on the other side of this debate.
And that is true,
The
but I'll allow you to demonstrate that for me.
The reality of the situation is not nearly so black and white. I'm not an idiot, and I'm also not ignorant. I do not want to be caught believing a falsehood any more than anyone else does. So the fact that I have researched this and come to the conclusion that I have, that doesn't mean anything to you guys. You don't know me personally, but I am not someone who jumps to a rash conclusion with no reason behind it. So when you hear someone make these, first of all, when they start out a conversation by saying, I don't deal in any absolutes, but then almost every other statement that comes out of their mouth is an absolute, then you might start to see that we have a partisan situation developing here, where we are not looking neutrally at this in the least. Now,
once again,
when it comes,
I challenged you.
Science,
I challenge you
science,
to present your evidence, and I will give you
well,
the opportunity to fail on all these counts. So
well,
don't
please
call
give
me partisan until
Well-
you get to the point where you prove my point.
Well, you have highly demonstrated yourself to be partisan already, but please allow me the opportunity, in your words, to fail, and by giving me some time to speak. Now, when it comes down to this debate, one thing that is very seldom understood by people is that science today is what science has always been. Science is a tool. Science is a method of discovery when it comes to the objective natural world. Science is not a worldview. Science does not equal naturalism. Science does not equal philosophical naturalism, nor does it necessarily equal the kind of methodological naturalism that Aronra is proponing.
Science certainly does equal methodological
Science-
naturalism, and you just said so yourself.
No, I
Because it
said
was
that there needs to
objectively
be backup.
verifiable about the natural world.
No,
You demonstrated yourself in
there
your
must-
definition.
To have an honest use of the scientific method, it needs to be possible to, in a hypothetical sense, it needs to be possible to witness a miracle and recognize it at least to a high degree of probability. Not
Wrong.
But the question
Wrong.
is, how would you?
Your statement assumes that there is such a thing as a miracle in the first place, and secondly, assumes that we have the ability to verify that which cannot be verified by definition.
Go ahead.
Do you realize, sir, that if you look
you're
up
loading this debate with definitions at the outset.
Okay, yeah, I know I am. And here's another one. You're going to love this. When you look up, get a handful of dictionaries, go through a half a dozen of them, look up the word magic in this half dozen dictionaries, and then go look up the word miracle. You'll be surprised to find they have the same definition. The two words mean the same thing. So magic is not ever applicable in science. I'm sorry if you want to say that's an absolute and you want to say that's partisan. It's just the fact you can never say that science is that science can use magic as an explanation for anything.
Just one final follow-up question, and then I'm out of here quickly. Essentially, I just want to know: is God possible? Is there a possibility that God does not exist to you? Is there a possibility that the God, creationism, and the Bible is not true at all?
When you say, is there a possibility, what do you mean when you say that? Like, are you asking me if I have...
I think it's a pretty clear-cut question.
Well, it sounds like you're asking me whether or not I have 100% rational certainty, complete knowledge, or whether I have faith.
No, it's a question of whether you accept there's a possibility that you don't have complete knowledge of the subject.
Okay, I think he's answered the question. He's expressing faith.
I do not have 100% knowledge. I do have faith. So I guess that would mean, yes, there is a possibility, because if I didn't believe there was a possibility I could be wrong, that would be equivalent to me saying that I have certain knowledge, which I don't say that. I say I believe what I believe based on evidence to a high degree of probability. I do not claim absolute certain knowledge, because to me that would be to say that I have no need of faith.
Hold on, wait.
I don't claim absolute knowledge.
What is the evidence that leads in support
We're getting to that. Remember,
Thanks,
I
guys.
asked him...
Have a good one.
I have a good one, Max, man. Remember, I asked him to give me one verifiable fact, verifiably accurate, that was positively indicative of his conclusion and exclusively concordant with young Earth creationism and not already accounted for or better explained by natural science.
Well, that's a loaded
how
question.
How is it a loaded question?
Because you are demanding that any evidence
you just said that you base your conclusions on evidence. Did you not?
I do.
All right, then you have already a list of items by which you could answer that question.
I do.
Which plainly is not loaded.
I do.
All right.
Well, it is
Show
loaded.
me the one thing. Okay.
Let me
How is it
explain why
loaded?
it's loaded. Because you asked me to provide you evidence which is exclusively concordant with creationism.
Because
So
that's-
essentially you're saying, tell me something that somebody else hasn't already made up an answer to explain in terms of evolution.
Okay, let me explain this another way. I often post 9 facts about evolution, which are encyclopedic details that are exclusively concordant only with evolution and do not ally at all. In fact, contrast with creationism outright.
What
Now,
are they?
You really want to know them now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All 9 of them? All right.
Let's see how much time we've got. Just start listing
We
in.
got 40 minutes.
Okay.
All right. It is a fact that evolution happens, that biodiversity and complexity do increase, that both occur naturally according to the laws of population genetics and amid environmental dynamics. Now, is it a fact that creationism happens? Has it been demonstrated? Are there any peer-reviewed journals showing that any of this thing has been observed or even defined? Do you have a mechanism that you can show me? I'm betting that you have none of these things. Now, this is just the first one.
Hold on. What you just said is also concordant with creationism. Biodiversity is concordant with creationism.
Right. Evolution happens, whereas creationism would contest that it does not. And that biodiversity and complexity do increase, and that both of these have been documented in peer-reviewed literature, that both occur naturally according to the laws of population genetics amid environmental dynamics. All things that creationism argue do not happen because they object to evolution and call it Darwinism instead.
Well, I would obviously disagree that that complexity arises naturally, and there is not sufficient time in this situation
So,
for us
okay,
to
in this
go into a
situation,
full
do I
debate.
need to
Well,
do I need to show you? Do I need to show what do I need to show you to show that this has happened? What do I need to just get out peer-reviewed literature that you can then dismiss later?
Okay,
I mean, I have a number of different ways.
We do not even have the right, but before we can have a productive conversation, we need to at least start out at the right place, and we're not even there yet. Because you don't even understand that a creationist looks at the same world that an evolutionist looks at. But they have a different starting point, and they interpret the evidence that they see differently.
Wow.
No, they don't.
Yes,
No,
they
they
do.
don't. No, they don't.
Okay.
You don't
Well,
even interpret.
that's,
No, you don't interpret ERVs, for example, at all. You utterly ignore them.
Well-
You do the same. You do the same thing for transitional species. You try to explain away how they are something else, but you don't accept what they are. And whether we're talking about genetic evidence, it doesn't really matter. When we're talking about, you may look at facts that you can individually isolate and make those, present them as though they're discordant with evolution. But whenever I ask a creationist to give me the fact, the verifiably accurate fact that is indicative of his position, what I have consistently always gotten were frauds. Bob Dutko gave me that he gave me these iron swords that had dinosaurs carved on them that were found in Arizona. These were exposed as fraudulent in the 1940s, yet the challenge was that he was supposed to give me something verifiably accurate. When I asked Bob Enyart to give me his example of verifiably accurate, he gave me flash-frozen mammoths with tropical flora in their mouths. A lie. Never happened, not once. Tulips are not tropical flora. But it doesn't matter. He still advertises on his website that he won that bet. And he knows better, but that's never going to be what he admits.
The entire fossil record is a support for creationism and is against Darwin.
Not one element of the fossil record supports creationism.
Hold on. I want to hear how
That's
he comes to that
false.
conclusion. Hold on. I want to hear how
Hold on. I'd like to interject here. Canby, every creationist I've ever listened to always argued against the fossil record.
What do you mean against the fossil record? What does that mean?
No,
They
there
either
are
find
those.
holes in it, or they argue that everything was stacked up because of how things fell in the flood. Why are things on top of mountains? All sorts of crap. They have problems.
They deny the geologic column. They deny phylogeny. They deny geologic ages. He's a young Earth creationist. He has to deny geologic ages. So when he looks at the Grand Canyon and he finds different types of sedimentary layers, and these layers require a great deal of time to form, and then in the intermediate layers you find fossilized raindrops or fossilized footprints, and then you have several sequences more, intermediate or sedimentary layers on top of these, he will dismiss all of that because that's a geologic column that his worldview will not allow. He has to deny every aspect of the fossil record. He is not going to acknowledge the rise of trilobites from the Cambrian through the Permian. He's going to deny all of that. He's going to blame everything on a flood which we know for certain did not happen worldwide, and worse, we know what did happen, and we know where the story came from, and when, and by who.
What are you
and we know
talking
that
about?
it is where your Bible came from, where the flood myth came from. You don't actually think that there was a man and God who is never changing and all-knowing and super moral suddenly has remorse about the way he created men. So he decides to drown everybody in the world because he has infinite powers, and this is the best plan he could come up with. So he takes this guy who ends up being a naked old drunk cursing his own kids and decides that this is the best guy in the world to save. So he has this incestuous mob, and he floods everybody else in the ultimate act of immorality and has everything destroyed, and then has all the animals, the polar bears, the penguins, the koalas, all of these things get onto this boat because this is the best plan God could come up with. And then all of these things are supposed to disperse to the various parts of the world so that we suddenly have 4,000 species of finch on some remote island of Trinidad. None of this makes any sense. We know that flood didn't happen. We know that what really happened. It doesn't make any sense at all. The flood is always the first thing that... The flood is always the first thing to collapse whenever we start.
Aaron, let it go.
The flood is the best explanation for the existence.
The flood is utter bollocks.
Hey, Wumble.
It is not.
Wait,
geologist. The flood is bollocks. It never happened.
Oh, good. We've got a geologist
I have a
on
question,
here.
which is pretty much anyone's question for this global flood. Where'd all the water come from?
The feed seems to have crashed.
What?
Where'd all the water come from?
Hold on, the feed on Vaughn Live has crashed?
It looks like it's crashed.
It did?
Okay.
I'm obviously that awesome that it can't accept me.
I see it still on my thing.
All right, now, to fill you in, Kenbei, in 2900 BC, at the end of the Gem.Nasur period, there was a profound flood that was recorded in the Sumerian king list back when they thought that kings ruled for 36,000 years because they hadn't invented the number 0 yet, so all of the ages and all the time spans were grossly exaggerated. However, in this story, they gave the depth of the flood as being 22 feet, or roughly 15 cubits, which turns out to be 22 feet. And in the Shuruppak area, where geologists have verified that such a flood actually did occur, you have, according to the story, you have all these dead bodies floating around everywhere. You have Ziusudra, depending on one version of the story. Then you have Utnapishtim in another version, and then you have Atrahasis in another version, and I think Ubartutu in another one. But then these are all local in the area. They're all from Akkad or Sumer or Babylon, where these stories are being told. And then the floods eventually recede after 1 week, and all the other details are there about releasing the birds and all of this. Now, this story was included in Ashurbanipal's library dating back to a minimum of 1800 BCE, which accounts to a story that goes to 2900 BCE and was also recorded in the Epic of Gilgamesh in 2700 BCE. And this is where that story came from. If you look at the global myths from other places, Greece, for example, you have people that are escaping their local floods by getting up on hilltops. And in another one, you have somebody where the only survivors were 2 people that were trapped in a seashell. And if you go to China, this is a good one. At China, you have a warrior who punched a hole in the firmament with his spear when he went up on a mountaintop and let in all the water above the firmament, and then the Naga goddess Nukwa had to come and clean up the mess. So it's completely different when you go to other places. But when you're looking only in the Iraqi floodplain, which is what it is, then you get these concordant stories that have all their details intact. There obviously was a flood in 2900 BC that lasted for about a week and killed everybody in that area. But it was not a worldwide flood, and it was not dedicated to your God. This story was concocted a whole lot longer, or a whole lot earlier than your God was conceived.
I challenge
God didn't. Your God didn't come into existence until around 600 BC.
Well, I challenge
If I
that
could
date.
chip in as well, there is no, in the geological record, there is no global layer consistent with a worldwide flood. There was nothing. There was lots of local and regional floods, some very substantial floods when you have tectonic events creating inland seas. Massive areas of land get suddenly flooded with salt water.
Was it the Mediterranean Sea once a giant desert?
Yeah, the Mediterranean Sea has very nearly dried out at least once.
Yeah, and then it flooded.
I was watching a BBC programme earlier to do with the rise of the continents. It's a really good documentary series. I've only watched bits of it. And Ian Stewart was saying how they've got opals in Australia because as Gondwana land broke away from Pangaea, because of the tectonic flexing in the crust, you had a massive inrush of ocean water into the inland of Australia, and that's caused the opals to form there. But there is absolutely no global evidence for a flood.
And then, of course, the story has no consistency in of itself.
Wait. Let's let Canby go. Canby, go ahead.
Okay. The fact that the fossil record is found worldwide, and there are...
It's because there's lots of things that have lived worldwide. There is no one consistent fossil that has existed forever on the
There
Earth.
actually is a place there's no fossil record, I would say, and that is the Atlantic Ridge, I would
Well,
say.
I'm not
And the
saying...
rest
I
of
would
the
say
system.
Hawaii.
Well,
There's a
actually.
couple of places. There's a couple of places where
Hold on,
there's
let him
essentially
finish
no.
his point. Let him finish his point.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, I heard this question a while back. Where did the water come from? The Bible identifies two sources. It says that it came from the sky, and it also says that it came from underground, subterranean water. So some
I'd like to ask a
combination...
question on that, Canby.
Mhm.
You've given us a place as to where the water came from.
Yes.
Where did the water go? Obviously, the water that came from below could recede below, but the water that came from the sky, where does it go?
The water didn't go anywhere. The world
Well, it has
is...
to recede.
No, it didn't recede. The Bible
So why are
says-
we not underwater then?
Because the Bible says that the valleys were made low and the mountains were raised up. And that
There's
is
still not enough
exactly...
water to cover the Earth.
Well, wait.
Okay, then
Hold
let
on.
me help out
Hold
with
on.
this then.
It's just
I'm not
okay.
being given...
Wait,
All right,
let's let him finish.
Stop speaking. Okay. This panel is
Maybe.
consistent of a large number of people compared to one person, all of whom are trying to debate me, and I'm not being given
not debating, I'm
anywhere
correcting
near
you.
the time to speak. So, I mean, it's very hard for me to answer your questions when I'm being given a very, very tiny slice of time to actually speak.
I'll
Do you
make
see
this
what
very
I'm
clear.
saying?
I don't debate creationists. I correct them.
Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
then I don't
Go
think
ahead.
you need to...
And let me
Wait, stop,
explain
Aaron.
something.
Aaron, stop. Okay, let's let Canby go uninterrupted.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we've got one person, Womble, here who admits that they do not debate with a creationist. They only correct
If you
them.
want
So
to
that-
debate science, then you come to peer review.
Stop, Womble. Okay, just go back to your point, Canby.
Okay, my point is, you asked a question, where did the water come from? I answered that question. The next question,
My
where did it
question
go?
is, where does the water go?
Yes, and I will answer that question as well. The water is still present. The world is mostly covered in water today, and it has already been documented. If the basins of the oceans were raised up and the mountains were brought down so that the world had an even surface area, it would be covered in water today. The water
Do
did
you
not
have
go
any
anywhere.
understanding of how plate tectonics works?
Okay, hold on. I want to ask a question here, Wobble. So what you're suggesting, Canby, then, is that the Earth has expanded?
No, I'm not suggesting the Earth.
Well, that's how the ocean floors go down and the mountains go up,
No, well, that wouldn't be an
and you don't get
expansion.
you get an irregular surface now because the Earth
It's
would have
not-
to have expanded.
Just
That
don't
would
be
not
This
be
is an expanding Earth theory.
No, that's not expanding Earth theory.
That
That's
is.
not, no, it is
Expanding
not.
Earth theory is
No,
also bollocks.
Yes.
Well, I'm not.
Stop. Everyone stop ganging up on the guy.
Yeah,
Jeez.
let's let him go. Let him
All right,
actually say what he's gonna say.
Okay, an upturn or a tumultuous change in topography on the surface of the Earth is not expanding Earth theory. I'm not saying that the Earth is expanding. Okay, so that would be a gross misrepresentation of creationism. I'm saying that the topography changed such that mountains raised and valleys lowered. And that is consistent with what we see on the surface of the Earth today, and it is consistent with what the Bible says happened.
No, it isn't.
That is what the Bible says happened.
Okay,
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Consistent
one,
with
one at a
plate
time.
tectonics.
One at a time. Womble will go first, then Aaron.
It's consistent with plate tectonics, which has nothing to do with the Bible. It's to do with the way that the different types of crust behave.
Wait, what
You
what
have-
is consistent with plate tectonics?
The
You said
topography
it's-
of planet Earth.
Well, then there's no problem. The Bible agrees with
There is a
plate tectonics.
problem.
No, no,
The
no, no,
Bible
no, no.
says that
Stop.
the
Plate
world's...
tectonics is not in the Bible. What the Bible describes is not plate tectonics. It's arse.
Wait. Well, no, you just said that the topography of the Earth shifting would be something that you could explain or that you could accommodate in your worldview.
It's nothing to do with my worldview. It's to do with my acceptance of the geological evidence.
Well, what I'm saying is that the Bible says that the mountains raised up and the
Congratulations,
valleys
good for
down.
you, but that's not what geology says.
Well, it
Yeah.
is
The
because
Bible
if you look at
happens
the
to be
surface
wrong
of the
about
Earth-
everything that
Okay,
it says, so it doesn't matter what the Bible says.
Stop. Holy shit. Okay. Did Womble get her point across?
I believe her
It wasn't
point is,
acknowledged.
I
It
believe
wasn't
her-
acknowledged, and neither was mine.
Well, I was just going to say, Aaron, did you make your point?
I made my point about peer-reviewed literature. He denies that it exists unseen. So, okay, if this were a written debate, which it should be, I mean, and Womble was correct. She said if you want to debate against science, you go into peer review. That's what it should happen. And there are forums that you can do that in writing, wherein he says that there's no evidence. Good. I'll show the link. I'll show the pictures. I'll show the evidence he wants. You can't really do that in a live discussion, which is why the only reason really that creationism exists, they can't play in the peer-reviewed arena because they don't have anything. There is not a single fact that they can give that's verifiably accurate or indicative of their position. Everything they assert is unverified by evidence, and the only source that they can turn to is man-made mythologies that we know were based on previous polytheism.
Okay, before Canby replies, realistic analysis has been waiting for a while to say something, and then Canby can speak for about 2 replies.
Well, I'm fine. I'm fine with him responding to Aronra as long as I get to go afterward. Afterward.
Then go ahead, Canby.
Okay, well, what I was saying is, first of all, you're asking for something that I can look at and verify in the external world, which comports with what the Bible says. Well, I see that the geology of this planet does comport with the record that the Bible gives of its history. First of all, the Bible says that the earth was covered in water, and then the mountains were raised and the valleys were lowered. That is exactly what you can see. Now, obviously, other people can come up with different explanations for that, and I acknowledge that there are competing explanations. But that does not mean that it cannot be interpreted in a way which is completely in accordance with what the Bible says. It is a fact. If you were to raise the basins of the ocean, and if you were to lower the mountains so that the earth had an even surface area, it would be covered in water. It's no big mystery where the water would have to go.
Wait, Aaron.
Let me give you one of the many things.
Aaron, realistic was going to go, remember?
Okay.
Okay. So you say that this happens. You say that somehow the landmass that was covered in water raised up from that water and emerged from it, right? I'm not misrepresenting your position. That's what you think, right? Okay. Now you have no account of how that happened.
That's right.
Okay. But other people who have accounts of how these things happened, naturalistically, you dismiss those for favor of your belief.
Well, those other things are beliefs as well. They are not absolute knowledge. They are also beliefs. They are systems. They are systems.
One at a time.
Okay, but they're beliefs. Okay, the point is that they are beliefs. Hold on. They are beliefs that give an accurate and representative model of how it occurs.
Yes,
Okay.
and objectively verifiable, where his assertions are not.
Well, I mean, can I just say, Canby, you say that in your thing that the mountains were lowered and the mountains brought up, right?
Valleys made low, mountains raised up,
So,
and water.
the question would be how, not if you do it. How.
Well, according to the storybook, you originally have nothing but water, and then you have the land rise out of the water, and then you have the water rise out of the land, apparently, according to his interpretation. All of it's wrong, all of it's made up, and there's no justification for it. Even if he were right about the flatness of the earth when he raised the seas and lowered the mountains, what was the site that Noah, if we'll call him the new name now, what was it Noah landed on? That was supposed to be
Mount Ararat.
Mount Ararat, a volcano. That's a brilliant
Don't
thing to land
volcanoes rise
on.
out of the water, though?
We don't know.
Yeah, volcanoes rise out of the water. You wouldn't want to land a wooden
Low
block on
years
it.
due to rise in about 65 million years, and the Surtsey did come out of the water.
Not
So it
only
does
that, but
happen.
Ararat last erupted
That's
over.
the known processes.
Go ahead,
Yeah, and Ararat last erupted over 10,000 years ago. And we also had, 10,000 years ago, we already had tribal Americans living on this continent. The people that are here now
That dating
were
is false.
already, the people that are here now have been genetically proven to have, and by artifacts, to have already been here then. I can show you any evidence you want, but unfortunately I can't do it in a live. If you want to do it in writing, I can show you the evidence. In the meantime, I can just tell you the evidence exists, and you plug your fingers in your ears and say, no, it doesn't. I can ask you what the evidence is, and I'll go look it up, and I'll post it on my blog. And then we'll show that whatever it is that you presented for me is not factual, is not verifiable, or is not concordant with or supportive of your position.
The same evidence that is available to evolutionists is available to creationists and vice versa.
Except that you have to wish away the entire geologic column that's evident in the Grand Canyon and in many other places. You have to assume that all these things don't exist. You have to make excuses for the raindrops in the intermediate layers. You can't account for the actual evidence. You can't account for the places where there are no fossils because they were never underwater. You can't account for the places where we can show periodic floods. You can't account for any of you can't account for the phylogeny of species, the ERVs. You can't account for the fact that we are classified as apes and the reason why that is and why we have a primate genome. You don't look at the evidence that we do. What you look up as man's fables. And that's all.
Okay. Wait. Canby. Also, just a note, please send your donations to the, Wamwell, can you say it?
It's the Mental Health Ireland. Maxman has the link, which I'm assuming that with the sound of my voice telling him to, he will post it into the chat. My Vaughan feed is being a bit glitchy with me. The money raising that Trolling Logic are raising is specifically going to support the social activities of patients in one of the residential clinics, so to help them get them out to theatres, lots of social outings to help build them back into a normal life. I'm assuming it's part of the rehabilitation of the rehab that they're going through as part of their treatment for their mental illness.
Okay, and Headless Chicken wanted to say something.
Okay, well, this is just backing up here a little bit with Canby. When you said the ocean floor is dropped and the mountains raised up, pre-flood, where was Mount Ararat?
Pre-flood, there was no Mount Ararat.
Then how would you know to call it Mount Ararat to land on it? How would you know to call it Mount Ararat to write it down in the story?
Because that's post-flood.
So post-flood,
Pre-flood.
someone lands on the mountains and says, let's call this Mount Ararat and say we landed on it, or was the mountain already there?
You got to remember that his worldview is limited to the fable. And according to the fable, there was once nothing but water, and then the land rose out of it. So there's the first major contradiction. I mean, the book is nothing but contradictions.
Hold on.
I got another question too.
Because you're shifting between
if you say that
wait, one at a time. Canby, go ahead.
And that would create an ocean. Pre-flood, were there oceans?
Pre-flood, were there oceans?
Because you said after the flood, the ocean floors fell to let the water in there.
Yeah.
So pre-flood, were there oceans?
I don't think there were oceans in the sense that we have them today, no.
So when the Bible talks about raising the land out of the water because it was only the water and only God's Spirit moving over the surface of the water, what was this water?
You're getting confused because we're talking about flood
Well,
and now...
no.
I don't think he's getting confused at all.
Wait, stop.
It's
Let
correct.
Candy speak. We only got 15 minutes.
All right.
Okay, you're jumping to the creation account when we're talking about the flood, and those events are many, many, many hundreds of years separated. So let's...
But if you do
One at
a
a time.
pre-flood,
Wait. One at a time.
if we're looking at what the Bible says was the world pre-flood, I've got to go pre-flood. If the flood is Genesis 6 and 7, I don't have much space before the flood that I can look at. So Genesis 1, it says nothing but water, and then the land rises out of it. So that refutes his further conclusion.
How
But then
so?
it also goes, like I said before, when it talks about the firmament and when it talks about the stars falling down and then getting into combat with human beings, There's, and then when you can climb to the top of a tree and see every kingdom, because the world is apparently flat and circular, according to Isaiah, there's nothing but contradictions. There's no kind of science in support of this. If the book may as well have been written by Aesop, and it would have fewer contradictions if it were. It also might be more accurate, but it's not remotely truthful, because if truth is whatever we can verify to be true, and that's the way it would be treated in a case when you have a witness on the stand. If truth is whatever we can verify to be true, then there is no truth in the Bible.
What is the question here? What is the question I'm being asked?
My original question was there oceans pre-flood?
And I said no.
You essentially said no. So my next question is then, where would you put all the whales and other sea life?
Which it mentions in Genesis 2.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that there were no bodies of water, but...
No, I'm asking for an ocean, a body of water that's only a few feet deep, like a river or a lake is not large enough to put a whale in.
Yeah, and, they are talking about sea monsters. So the Bible says sea monsters.
I'm not saying either that there were no bodies of water that a whale could have gone in. I'm not saying that either. But you could put a whale in a very large lake, like we have large lakes in the United States.
It's not.
Realize how large whales get.
Yes.
Yeah. Apparently not, because you can't have a lake.
And then when you have several hundred of them, how much volume that starts to take up?
You don't think the body of water as large as the Caspian Sea or Lake Huron or something, you don't think a whale could fit in a body of water that large?
A single whale? Yeah, but a single whale is not going to be genetically replenished, and we've got lots and lots of whales, and mosasaurs, and ichthyosaurs. Well, do you remember now, the mosasaurs and the ichthyosaurs both have the breath of life, and the Bible says that everything that has the breath of life should come into the ark. So what happened to the mosasaurs and the ichthyosaurs? The creationists have to ignore them like they have to ignore everything else and focus only on the story. They don't even look at their own story, where in the beginning it says there's nothing but water and the land rose above it. That means global ocean, and he's denying that. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that there's 417 contradictions in the Bible. He's going to make an excuse to apologize for all of them.
Okay, can we, Kenbei, say whatever you want for 10 minutes, and we'll wrap the show up, and then we'll do an after show if you guys are all game.
No, I'm not game. I've got other things to do.
Womble, you
I'm
joining?
supposed to be doing other things. It's nearly 2 a.m. for me.
Oh, okay. So go ahead, Kenbei.
Okay, in light of the fact that there's been a lot of misrepresentation done here on what Genesis actually does say...
Wait, what did I misrepresent?
Well, you're saying
implying that I misrepresented, that it said that there was nothing but water, the surface of God moved along, and then he parted the land from the sea. You're saying that doesn't say that?
No, it does say that he did that,
okay.
But it does not say that prior to Noah's flood there was, an extended period of time where the world was covered with water. All it says is there's a creation week. It says that during this creation week, that the land and the water were separated.
Yeah, and there was only the Spirit of God moved over the surface of the what?
Yes.
Water.
Started out.
Okay, so it starts with global ocean, and then he raises the land.
But that was before the land was created.
Again.
Okay, so what is the relevance here? What is the relevance of that to Noah's flood? There is no relevance.
Okay, what's laughable is that we're talking about you're promoting this fable and asking what is the relevance of my argument. You're the one promoting the fable.
I'm answering questions about the flood of Noah, and that has literally...
Which is actually the flood of Utnapishtim, Atrahasis, and Ziusudra
I would argue that
centuries earlier.
I would say that those fables actually came after the Bible, not vice versa.
Except that we know that they couldn't have, because we know that they were written by the grandfathers of the biblical authors.
And we don't.
They were all, yes, we do know that, and they were all Semitic in origin.
Okay, well, just because someone has made a statement about the past does not mean that statement is
and
true.
It's consistent, and it's overlapping and concordant with all the surrounding areas. And then you have a much later version, 1,000 years later, where you have the adaptation. All the same details in place. It can't have happened the other way, and we know for all the reasons that Womble could probably spend a week explaining to you, and then I could spend a week explaining to you other things, we know the flood could not happen and did not happen. We know what did happen, and we know that there were tribal Americans already here, and we know that there were Japanese and people in Taiwan, and the Chinese culture was already there, the Egyptian culture was already there before your flood, and they all failed to notice where they had all drowned and immediately built up their civilizations right after that as if nothing happened, because nothing happened. There was no global flood. It did not happen. We know that they were speaking multiple languages before your Tower of Babel was started by Hammurabi around 1750 BC. We know this. We know that languages continue to evolve and develop after that, and we can chart them, and we can trace them, and we can see how languages diverge. We know that's a fable too. Those stories did not occur in real life. Snakes don't talk, and neither do donkeys. You're believing in a fable. We all know it's a fable. We know who wrote it.
When
Aronra says we know, what a reasonable person should take from that is one side of the partisan divide believes.
This is not partisan. This is not a political party issue.
It is extremely partisan. Trust me.
It is not.
It's obviously not partisan. He has to use charged pejoratives because he doesn't have a defense for his position.
I realized that earlier.
No, he doesn't. He still hasn't given the fact. We're going to get to the end of this show, and he's still not going to have presented the fact because he knows there's nothing, not one fact that is concordant with his position. He's got assumed conclusions, and he'll say, well, we can look at this, the geologic column, which you clearly don't understand. You're going to say that it supports your argument. Womble's already told you why it doesn't. I could spend another day telling you why it doesn't.
Let me ask him a question, because I think this is an important question to ask, and I can take it irrespective of all the evidence that's waged against him. The question would be that so you say you don't propose a mechanism for this occurrence of these. You say you don't know how it happened, but you know that it did happen somehow. But you don't admit certain knowledge. So you admit you're in an agnostic position, right? You're an agnostic theist, then, is what you're admitting, right?
Well, how would you, if you define agnostic as I don't take a firm position, then no, I'm not agnostic.
No, agnostic means that we as natural people cannot have certain knowledge of supernatural things.
Well, let me finish. So it's an admission sensually of ignorance. You're saying I don't know, but I think, right? That's your position. You say you think that God exists, or you believe that God exists. Irrelevant. Think and believe in that context are irrelevant. But so you say I don't know, but I think God exists, and you say you think that evidence is applied for that. Now, what's to stop me from making up something that's concordant with all the evidences? And what's to stop you from believing whatever I make up?
So you're saying if you make up a story, that is in accordance with all of those evidences.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You said that there's two ways of looking at evidences. I'm positing a third way, and I'm asking you why you would go with the what you assume is accurate too. And I would say assume too, because you said you don't know, and Aronra is claiming that he does know, and geologists claim that they do know, and I think they claim relativistically the same way I would claim that I am here and not non-existent. Relativistically, like under the stipulations, they do know, right? If the physical world is in concordance with everything that they've observed and everything they've done, then they do know, essentially, right? Now,
if that's your definition of know, if you're using a soft version like that, then I know as well.
Can I posit my definition of know?
Okay.
if you
The
want
difference between knowledge and belief is that knowledge is demonstrable with measurable accuracy. If you can't show it, then you don't know it. So everything that I say that I know, and I've said a lot of things that I can know tonight, but everything I say that I know, I can show that I know. I said methodological naturalism. I could show that that is actually the case. Look it up. And he did, and he saw. I knew what I was talking about. Womble is talking about geology. She is a geologist. She knows. When I talk about phylogeny, and when I talk about the evidence, the peer-reviewed journal evidence for the increase of complexity in the genome and the primate genome that we have, which is largely dysfunctional, I've already shown it. I can show it again. I know it.
It has been
You
demonstrated.
believe.
It
You
has been
believe.
documented that the peer review system as it exists today is a partisan and biased system which intentionally
No,
excludes
again, science has
it
controls.
intentionally excludes
Are you not
competing
listening?
views.
Do you
No,
not-
you
Hold on.
argue for a supernatural
There is a
explanation,
documentary.
methodological,
there's-
methodological
I would
naturalism,
like to
as we
give a
discussed
chance
before.
to speak at some point.
Yeah, hold on, Aaron, let him speak.
We've already had this argument. Methodological naturalism doesn't allow magic to be used as an excuse instead of an explanation, and he's saying that we're biased because we don't allow hocus pocus to replace natural explanations.
Okay.
That's not a bias.
If anyone who is listening or watching has paid attention at all tonight, I think it should be fairly obvious Aronra has dominated this conversation, and the vast majority of his statements have been of an absolutist and extremely partisan nature. And I have not really had...
Except that I haven't been partisan at all.
Well, okay, but of course you would say that.
Because it's true, and I
But I'm
love
doing
truth.
my best
And
to
you are a
say the
creationist, which means you have to use pejoratives and inaccurate terms.
I'm
One of them
doing my
being
best to try
that
to
it's
answer-
partisan.
I'm doing my best to try to answer the questions that I'm being given, and I am trying to give an answer for the reason that I'm giving you guys. However, I don't really believe that anything that I'm saying is going to be received in a way which is in any way neutral. So, but I will say this: there is a good documentary for anyone listening that is interested in looking into this in an open-minded fashion. There's a documentary called Expelled by Ben Stein.
I
He
thought
goes
you meant
through-
unbiased and open-minded. That man
He goes
lied all the way through that
He
movie.
goes through and
You don't
documents.
understand. I have personal friends who were in that movie.
That's great. He
Okay,
goes through
I mean-
and documents the
Yeah,
fact.
he lies all the way through it. Hitler was a creationist by his own admission, and he said so in his own books several times. And Darwin was was completely against eugenics and argued against that in all of his books as well. He was misrepresented as Hitler was misrepresented. That book or the movie that you are promoting to us is, like your entire worldview, a complete lie.
Okay, so once again, another partisan statement.
Not yet a
It's
partisan
because-
statement. I have not made a partisan statement, and Womble keeps saying this is not partisan, this is not political. It's not. You're not saying things that are factual.
Okay. Where were we at? Where, was there a question that was being presented or something I was being asked to explain?
Someone in the chat keeps asking you a question, Aaron. Aaron, where do mega cryometeorites come from?
I had a quick Google. They seem to be giant, huge, fuck off hailstones. So I would suggest they come from the place that normal hailstones come from. They just form in a slightly different way so they can get so big.
Are we talking about New Mexico?
I'm assuming so. I don't know. I just did a quick Google.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
and
Stephen
I
Christ.
pulled up a Google that link for you.
This is Stephen Christ, though, Aaron, the guy that we talked about earlier. I think that's the guy because this is the only guy. That's the only guy I know who says that stuff.
oh, the guy that believes that we're living inside the Earth.
Yeah, that's the guy. I think that's him.
And so I've been following all of our space exploration all along and wondering how does this guy justify anything that where does he get his cell phone signal from if he doesn't believe in satellites? I mean, come on.
Well,
All right.
it
Well, I
bounces
think
off the
it's
inner
Brooklyn song
crust.
under
This
pressure.
is really off topic. Nobody here believes that. So,
Well,
We
I
don't
mean,
talk
sorry
about that.
about that, Ken, but I got to end the show.
All right.
continue
Can I
after
just
show.
quickly say something? I
Go
just want
ahead.
to quickly say something while people are listening. I can see that it's Kenbei, however you say your name is. I can see that you're getting a little bit wound up. And I think I can understand that. It's only natural when you have people that are saying the opposite thing to you. Please take in mind that nothing that we said is anything personal towards you. I'm sure you're a very lovely
Nor is it
person.
partisan.
Yes, nor is it partisan. However, you are talking about things from a position of extreme ignorance. Now, that is not an insult. Ignorance, being ignorant of something, is saying that you are not aware. I would strongly suggest you start picking up some scientific textbooks, not creationist ones, actual scientific textbooks. Start at things at around school level, and then work your way from there. If you have questions and there's a local university nearby, go and contact some of those lecturers. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to share their understanding, knowledge, and passion of their subjects with you.
Let me stop you right there. I appreciate that. However, I have been researching this for years. I've come to the conclusion that there is no neutral resource for information on this topic. It has become so polarized that every resource that you may seek is going to have some sort of bias, whether it be for or against. So,
Except if it's science, then it's not going to be biased because science has controls on it to minimize or eliminate bias by design.
That is an extremely naive statement. And
that's not a naive. That's the way the peer review process was designed for that purpose.
The way that the peer review process is happening today, it's functioning as a censorship mechanism which keeps competing.
No, it is not. It's functioning as a mechanism that if you don't have evidence, you can't play.
Wait. Can I just say something? Kenbei, you know of the Dover trial, right?
I know a little bit about it. I don't believe it was a fair situation that came up there. But what I need to tell you is a trial is never going to decide truth. A trial does not decide what is scientific. A trial does not decide what is true. So we do not need to be having trials about creationism or evolutionism. That is a farce.
Wait,
trial is never going to decide something like that.
There is no such thing as evolutionism.
Yeah, I had to make a concession for people who accept science and don't let faith muddy up their view, because we have creationists and then we have non-creationists. That's what it really is, because creationists are the ones that reject methodological naturalism, and that's what he's saying. He's saying that science is biased against methodological naturalism.
Science is not biased. But science is not biased. Science is an unbiased tool. But it is the word science is being hijacked by an establishment which wishes to. The establishment is wishing to portray all people who disagree with them as non-scientific.
I gotta end the show, guys.
Okay.
So thank you for watching. Be back in 10 minutes for the after show. So tune in 10 minutes. See you later.
Okay. Well, if there's a show.